Hello. It's been a while, but welcome back to Two Cells One Pack. We've got Christine behind the camera, and what we're going to do today is take apart this V9 and look at what the structure is like inside. A lot of people have been asking me for this type of a video, and it's been a while since we posted a video, so welcome back. So we're going to start from the top and head our way down. The top cover here is held on by 7 3mm screws. One of the screws is hidden behind this little rubber cover, so you'll just need to pry this out. With those 7 screws now released, we'll lift up the handle and this cover should just come right off. Unless one of my screws, oh, there's an 8th screw. Got to release some of these clips and this cover lifts right off, but you do have the connections for the charge ports and USB ports as well as the display, so make sure you unplug these. Now to unplug them, there are these little clips here, so you want to press down on the clip and then lift up. You might need to wiggle it loose a little bit, pull on the connector to release it. There you go. Now with that out of the way, let's remove the charge ports at the back. I think there's one more connector up here, isn't there? Let's remove these charge ports. Same thing. There's a little hook, so press down on the hook and then pull away on both of these. And that will come loose. Lastly, there's a cable right here. So same thing. We're going to squeeze that tab and then pull up. So this is the last one for the charge port, or the USB port, sorry. So same thing, we're gonna remove that hook and then release the clip. There you go.
Oh, much better.
It's like you're doing surgery. Now with all those out of the way, there's some wire management that you'll have to come through here. And this will expose the control board, ride connect box, and the brains of the unit. So before we kind of get to the next step, you can see that the trolley handle and the grab handle are both a full metal piece, and it's structurally screwed onto the metal structure within the wheel. So if you are riding this out to like the coffee shop, or you're going to your nearby gym and you need to lock it outside, you can put a nice U-lock between this handle. And this is one solid piece of metal, so you don't have to worry that someone can just cut the plastic and steal your wheel. It'll probably be easier for them to snip your lock than to open up the wheel. So this handle up here is held on by 6 screws. Okay, with those screws removed, you should be able to lift up your handle. And just be careful about this cable. This is actually for the lift button. So make sure we'll go and unplug that one. There you go.
Oh, they actually name everything here.
They do, yeah. So if you don't know Chinese, you can just take a picture and put it through Google Lens, and it'll translate all the different plugs for you, so that you know where to plug things back in. Yeah, so this is the ride connect box. So this handles the brains of the eSIM and GPS module. These side covers, I'm gonna cross over here. So these side covers are held on by a couple screws. You'll see the screws up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6 at the bottom, and 7. So with those screws removed, these should all just clip out. There you go. And therefore you see these plastics that are on the outside of the wheel. So like you see how I've scratched this up over the course of the last couple months. These plastics are super easy and cheap to replace. And then you have the inner structure that's plastic, but then the main structure is still a metal structure. So we're going to take this all apart so you can see inside. The same 7 screws. Looks like I dropped my wheel more on the right side than I do the left side. What we can do is remove these bottom covers, and then we'll remove the LED strip. So to remove that bottom cover, we will need to remove the kickstand first. And if you come over here, Christine, I can show you the 4 screws. So you have 1 screw on each side. And then if you look down here, there's 1 screw on each side as well. So
Where again?
right here, can you see it? And then you pull it down, and that removes your kickstand. Now I'm going to flip the wheel onto its side so I can remove the screws and plates on the bottom. So on the bottom here, we're going to remove this plate first. This is just a bash plate to protect the suspension unit. So there was, in the past, the V11s, they never really had a bash plate. And so sometimes you could damage the shock or the nut. Here they added the bash plate, which is a metal plate, just to prevent any damage. It's held on by 2 3mm screws on the edges and then 2 4mm in the middle here. Now I'm going to remove this bottom gray triangular plastic trim, and it is held on by 2 screws, including the kickstand one, which we've already removed, as well as these 4 screws down here. So we're just going to remove those. With these screws removed, we should be able to pry this up. It's just held in by a couple clips, so just pry around carefully. Sometimes these nuts, if they stick out a little bit, they can get stuck. So when you're trying to pry it out, you want to remove the top nuts and then try to pull it out in this direction to remove it. Since we're here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the pedal hanger before I flip the wheel to the other side to remove the other bottom plastics. So these are all held on by 4mm bolts. And InMotion did a really good job giving you enough access to get to these bolts, even though the pedal's still on the hanger. With that removed, we'll lift the pedal out of the way. There is this rubber grommet here that aligns it into this hole for the metal structure so that the forces are not just relying on the 6 screws, but it's also on this rubber grommet to spread out the load. So same thing as the other side, we've got 2 screws at the top and then 4 3mm screws at the bottom. So again, this is that metal structure that I was referring to. Inside there's also sliders, and this is where the air shock goes from the bottom of the wheel to the top of the wheel. So you can see down here, this is where you'll pump up the air shock based on your weight. So there is a chart that's inside the manual, and the chart is just a guideline. So if you want it to be more cushy or soft, you can pump it more on the lower side. If you want it to be more stiff and poppy, you can put it more to the top side. But if you look over here, Christine, there is also another chamber up here, which if you have the wheel that's fully assembled, your wheel will come with one of these extension tools, and there's a hole on the top cover that I can show you right here, in which you'll insert the extension tool and it'll come down this hole and you can thread it on like this. And then you can pump up the top chamber, which will give you some rebound control, so you can tailor the ride to your liking. Now, my general rule of thumb that I found to be kind of the ideal for my scenario was around 30 to 40% of the air pressure on the top that you have on the bottom. So for example, if you have 100 PSI at the bottom, then you can start anywhere between 30 to 40 PSI at the top. Now, one of the great things is that if you're doing a tire change, there is an instructional video that Aaron Doria has already put out there in the interwebs. But the great thing is that you actually don't need to remove any of what we've removed, because they did give you this really good quick disconnect cable. So this quick disconnect cable means that you can remove the motor from the wheel to do your tire change without having to touch any of the electronics at the top end of the wheel. So let's now continue. We're going to remove the LED panel, and then we'll remove the side panels. But to make it easier, I'm going to flip the wheel upwards so that we can work on both sides. So there's a Phillips screw here. And I've never taken this wheel apart, so this is the figuring this out as we go. with that, you can see that the cable is here for the LED strip, and the LED strip wraps around. So we'll actually come to the top here, and we will look for the LED strip light, which I believe is this one.
Right there.
So this tool that I'm using basically allows me to release the hook and then pull up. Now these connectors are way more robust than the JST connectors or other typical connectors because of the fact that each one of them has that locking mechanism to prevent things from coming loose over time. Now I believe that this LED panel is stickied onto the side panel, and I don't want to re-sticky it. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and remove this panel as one big whole piece. I believe this should be a triangle. So we're going to unscrew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws. The ones around the edges are Phillips, and the ones down the middle are 3 mil. So let me release the LED strip on the other side first to see if we can get rid of this centerpiece. So now that we're here, we can peel back the sticker so that it's not stickied onto there, and we'll pull it just up to this line because that's where the brake is. And we'll do the same thing with the other side. There you go. And once we've done that, it looks like the whole panel has just released. Now this cable that we just unplugged, we're going to pull that through. Make sure not to snag any wires here. So we're going to rotate this plug a little bit just so we can sneak it by here. It's like one of those puzzles that you got to get it just in the right orientation. And there you go, and it'll come through. And there's the side panel. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. You can see here, this is the battery. So it's a fully enclosed battery. We're going to remove the other side, and then we'll come back to this side and work on it. If we look at the other cover, you can see where the clips are, just so you know what I'm trying to remove. As you can see all these clips here, all the way down the edge, that is what is holding this together in place. So once all these screws are removed, it's about a pry and a pull and a push to try and get these to all release at the same time. Now that all the side panels are removed and you can see the battery packs and the full metal structure on the sides, let's go ahead and remove the headlight, and then we'll see if we can remove some of the electronics off the top of the wheel. So for the headlight, there is this connector. It's just for convenience, and then there's also the main connector there. So we're going to remove it from the main connector, and then there are 2 screws on the side that hold the headlight together. And then there's 2 4mm screws holding that headlight together. Now, if you ever find that your headlight becomes wobbly or loose, this is where you would tighten it as well. But they put triple washers, so the probability of it getting loose are probably a little lower. Also keep in mind that this device was a very early model, so there may be some screws or whatnot that might be different than yours. With that removed, there goes the headlight. As you can see, it's very similar to the V14 headlight, probably exactly the same one. So up here we have the main board that handles all of your accessory lights, and in the back here we have the driver board here, as you can see with the phase wires at the back. So let's remove as much of these plugs as we can, and then we'll see if we can unscrew the main board. So this cable here just connects between the driver board and the main board. And this cable here was for the ride connect, so we'll put that back together with the ride connect, just so we don't lose it. Now, if you ever unplug your ride connect, you'll see that there's these the notch at the bottom, so you want to line up that notch and then plug it in to prevent any pins from getting broken. This is the taillight cable. There you go. And then I'm going to remove the battery. The clips there for the smart BMS. There you go. Now this cable here is a hall sensor, just so it is very critical, and just be very careful with it. Don't yank on it or anything to prevent any damage. And now the phase wires are held on by 3mm screws. And the good thing is, again, they have labeled it yellow, green, and blue in English. So the most critical part is labeled in English. And then, as you can see from a while ago, is this cable is just an extension cable. So that connects from the top of the board down to your motor quick disconnect at the bottom. Now that everything's disconnected, I'm going to go and unscrew this main board from the frame, and then we're going to see if we can pull it out. So there's 2 screws at the front and 2 screws at the back, total of 4 screws. Thank God for magnetic parts. Now with that out of the way, we should be able to lift this fairly easily. There you go. And this is the brains of all the accessories. The driver board. I mean, sorry, not the driver board, the main board. Now, let's remove the driver board. Now, the driver board is responsible for balancing the wheel and everything revolving around that. So, it connects the batteries and all the main brains of the unit. What's up?
What are the screws?
There are 3 screws on each side, so 6 screws in total. With that, 6 screws removed, we should be able to move the driver board, unless there's another screw. I think it might just be... Is this screw part of it? It looks like it's still stuck in there, so it's probably... So those are Phillips, and then these are all 4mm screws, it looks like. Now these 5 bolts bolt onto the slider system, and they've added the slider block, which I'll show you in a little bit, just to provide better reliability as well as to remove any lateral forces from the air shock in order to not damage the air shock. These ones hold on to the shell, so we're going to remove those, but those are just 3 mils. So with that all removed, we should be able to lift this out. There you go. So here you can see, ooh, that's a bit dirty, but here you can see the slider system. As you can see, even though like this wheel has been ridden a lot in all weathers and has accumulated some dirt, because of the way it's designed with the sliders, it still moves with fairly low friction. Now this is what will also allow your wheel to continue operating with a good suspension for years to come.
Can we clean it?
I can clean it later, yes. But I mean, it's moving pretty well. It's just a bit gritty sounding.
How long have you had this wheel?
That's a good question. Probably had this wheel for, I don't know.
So people have a rough idea.
Maybe over 6 months.
Accumulate.
Maybe over 6 months.
Over 6 months.
And I've been riding it through the winter and all weather, so I haven't been babying this wheel, if that's the question you're looking for. Now with that out of the way, we can remove this suspension shock off the bottom and then remove the battery. To remove the air shock, it is a 26mm open wrench. There you go. It would make it easier if I remove the air pressure. Let me release the top part. That one is a smaller wrench. There you go. Now with both the top and nut removed, you should be able to slide this air shock right through. Okay, now that's out of the way, we're going to do these 4 5mm bolts. Okay. Oh, it looks like it's coming out the top. There you go. So the cider block is removed, and this should be able to come out. So there's a rubber seal. Yeah, it looks like without that rubber seal, it should be able to come right through. There you go. So it's just the rubber seal that was putting it together. Now you can see that this block is held onto the motor, and this allows you never have to touch this. When you slide it out for the tire change, as we saw in Aaron's video, this block will stay on, and that will allow you to have less of an opportunity for loose motor bolts. But of course, when you put the frame back on, you'll want to add some blue Loctite. Now looking at the battery here, it looks like we're able to release the battery. So we're going to take our 3mm screwdriver and go around and release it. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each side, so 10 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There you go.
Ew, this is so dirty.
It's been through a bit. This is where, after removing all the metal pieces that connect the motor to the frame at the top, this outer exterior part is just a shell. So let's flip it over and take the battery out the other side. The transformer logo, I think it's one piece.
Oh, I thought I could take it on and put something else.
You want to put 2 cells 1 pack logo? Now, as a word of caution, if you're doing this with like a pliers or adjustable wrench, you could damage the lip here. So just make sure you get either a socket or one that holds on to more than just the 2 sides. There you go. So now that that's released, the motor should come fully free out. I'm not going to remove the slider system this time around because I already showed that to you. Make sure that none of these plugs get stuck or damaged because they are very critical pieces to your wheel. There you go. And you can also see the details. So like InMotion not only uses really good connectors that stay in place, it's the XT60 power cable that actually has a rubber seal so that it's more waterproof. There's a bunch of fillet screws, it looks like. So here it looks like there's 2 screws that hold on the taillight. So it's actually just the 2 screws on the other side that we just removed, and then you should be able to pry this out. And you can see that here with these 2 screw holes. So now we're going to try to split the two half shells. Similar to like the V12s, there are 2 screws here, 2 screws there, as well as 2 screws near the top. So they usually go around the circle of the, I guess you call it a mudguard or the wheel well. And then there's a couple screws up here that hold it to the metal frame. With those screws removed, it should be easy to remove this half shell. Unless I forgot one right here. So now you can see this cast aluminum structure. It also tells you which direction it goes in case you do a full disassembly. Now that brings us to the end of the video. If you want to see how this wheel is assembled in the factory, watch my InMotion Anhui factory tour, because during that tour they were assembling this wheel and I showed all the different steps. Now, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Again, this wheel does have that really strong structural membrane that's in the center of the wheel, and all the exterior pieces are plastic, so that they're easy to replace and cheap to replace in case of a crash or an accident. With that, enjoy the V9, subscribe, subscribe, ding dong, ring the ding dong, and I'll see you next time.